From the Hype HQ studio in Chicago, Illinois, it's Startup Hype Man, the podcast. Hello, everyone. My name is Raj Nation, and I am the founder of Startup Hype Man. Fast-growing startups work with me because they want to become better storytellers. Whether that's for customers, investors, or a packed audience, they know that story is their ticket to stand out, stand apart, and change the game. And this podcast here is where I talk with entrepreneurs and leaders in the startup ecosystem, ranging from scale stage to early stage, as they share specific strategies that they have executed to stand out across three specific areas: sales, marketing, and people. Before we begin today's episode, remember you can head to startuphypeman.com and subscribe to the newsletter that doesn't suck. You'll get new podcast episodes and timely reads written by me, but also helpful articles from around the web and a notice of upcoming pitch competitions. All right, let's dive in and hear how today's guest is changing the game. Ladies and gentlemen, making her way to the microphone from Long Island, New York, and currently residing in San Diego, California. She is the founder and CEO of SaaSMAX. Please welcome Dina Moskowitz.
Woohoo!
She's here. She's in the building. She is Dina Moskowitz, and she is the founder and CEO of SaaSMAX. What is SaaSMAX? Well, most channel programs in B2B tech only get a 5 to 20% partner activation. SaaSMAX is focused on changing that by enabling companies to learn whether another company is actually a great fit for their channel program based on how they compare to your ideal partner profile. SaaSMAX provides the technologies, the tools, and the processes to help you by leveraging insights, intelligence, analytics, and expertise to help you set up the best possible channel partner program and set you up for success. They have been around for 8 years now. They've totally revitalized the game of partner reselling. They have over 150,000 companies profiled on their platform. And today, we're talking with the Sherpa of reselling, the Sherpa of partnerships, the shaman, maybe I should even say, in Dina. And our topic, very appropriately, is using channel partnerships as a go-to-market strategy. Dina, I think I have a decent idea of why this is on your mind, but maybe you can give us why this is on your mind and why it's important to you.
No, well, thanks for having me. And that was such an awesome introduction. And I think you kind of said in there why, being here mattered. And as the guy who helps so many startup companies to go to market and refine their pitch and hone in on what and bring forward what makes them special, part of go-to-market strategy especially for SaaS companies and B2B tech companies is, do you want to go through a channel partner program or not? And it sounds really simple, to just say, yeah, we want to have a referral partnership program, or we want to have an affiliate program or a reseller program, but there's so much that goes into it. And I know that when I was first starting my first business, I didn't really know anything about it. And yet, had I known a lot more about the channel before I started, I probably would have done a much better job in my first company of building a channel partner program in the right way and leveraging it and really, being able to have that company be more successful through the channel. So I love talking to early stage companies in tech who are looking at whether they should or should not build a channel. And so I'm really excited to be here with you.
And I think this is going to be a fantastic conversation. We've never before on this show done a really deep exploration of what it means to set up a channel strategy. So we're going to unpack that as entirely as we can in the time that we have. Before we do all that, let's dial it back a little bit and learn more about you, Dina, who you are, and a little bit more about your background. I mentioned in your introduction, you grew up in Long Island. I'm curious to know, were you an only child or did you have siblings? And how do you feel, whatever your sibling dynamic was, what was it like, and how do you feel it shaped your perception of the world?
Oh gosh, that's a funny question. I'm one of two girls, right? So my dad was the only man in the house, We did not ever have to worry about the toilet seat being down. It was always down because there were 3 against 1. And my sister and I were very close and still are to this very day. We have one of these abnormally normal families, which always get along. There have never been arguments. We always figure out ways to resolve any issues that there may be. And I love my sister to death and really admire her as well. So hope that helps.
Yeah, well, the toilet seat being lowered, I have a funny anecdote with that. I have forever been trained to lower the lid, not because I have sisters, I don't. It was 3 against 1 in the opposite direction in my house. But because one of my best friends growing up down the street, they were 3 women in the family and I think 2 men. And they had this little sign above their toilet, and it was like this cartoon of a bear like a teddy bear falling in. And it said, "Lower the lid, ladies present. A wet behind is most unpleasant." And because I always saw that, that like trained me from the time I was like 7 years old to never leave the lid up. So that's how I can relate to that part of your story anyway.
That's great. Well, I know this is a webinar about channels, but that made me think of the sign in my orthodontist ceiling whenever I'd go there. And there was a sign, and you remember these things forever. And it says, "You can pick your friends and you can pick your nose, but you can't pick your friend's nose."
My dad has forever, he has, since the time I was a kid, he has used that one-liner with my brother and I. So you had a really abnormally normal family, as you said. You have a great relationship with your sister. How do you feel that has shaped the way you see the world?
I think that I had a really good childhood. And when I got to college, I started to see how much dysfunction there was out there. And I think, in some ways I wasn't prepared for it because I never had to argue my points. I never had to, claim a stake on what I was fighting for in those ways. And I think it was actually going to college when I had to, my eyes were open to the fact that, the world and life and way you communicate, and you have to really champion yourself or champion your ideas is so critical. So, I would say that they have always given me this feeling of security and confidence, and you can be whatever you want to be. Not necessarily given me the ability to have the critical thinking to think on your own and respond that way, but definitely to know what it's like to act like a productive, functional team, because we were a great family, still are.
That's a really interesting take. Good, like not necessarily the bad, but what you didn't get and what you had to learn on your own then, because you had such a good family dynamic. As you got into the working world and as your career has unfolded, what would you say is the top 1 or 2, let's say, most surprising things you have learned about yourself as a professional or as a human being?
Oh, it's that one of those things is the more you go through life, the more you realize you don't know, right? And so that's one of those things. I've become more and more humble. I went to an Ivy League college, and, you thought you're a master of the universe, Wharton undergrad, finance, and studied Mandarin and traveled the world and had great jobs out of college. But the more you learn and the more you take on as you grow in your career, the more you learn that you really don't know a lot, but you get better and better at certain things. And so that's one of them. And that really teaches you all the time to be humble and willing to listen to people and learn from them. And the newest person on my team, even if they're an intern, is someone that I can learn from and that I value and appreciate. And I'm just that's the other thing, is that there is really no someone is better than someone else. And if you're the CEO, and you might also be the janitor if you're a startup and when you're starting out, but that every person you bring to the table has something that you will learn from and gain from and that will contribute. And it's important to keep your eyes and ears open for that.
Very interesting. And I think I agree. One of the things I have learned over the last few years, not just learned, but also become very comfortable with, and tell me if you relate, is the idea of what I don't know, but really being okay with that and almost being like excited at what else is there to learn that I don't know yet, and that just being almost like a motivating factor. Because I think I'd say particularly like in my case, running an expertise driven business, but even in your case, you have to have the domain expertise, right? There can be this fear of like, I have to know everything, which I think can actually limit your potential in a lot of ways. It can prevent you from like reading more books or researching new things because you're more focused on like, how do I protect the knowledge I do have? But the shift I've really had has been like, just understanding that in the entire spectrum of knowledge, there will always be more that I don't know versus what I do know. And just understanding that like, but I can just keep learning. I'm never going to get there. It's always going to be imbalanced against me. But that's what makes it fun. And what keeps me going is knowing that there is still more to go and I'm never going to run out of things to learn.
Yep. No, that's a great perspective. Yep. I think another thing that I learned first, and it's one thing to hear this and study it, right, in business school or hear it when it's spoken to you. But when you are running a business, and whether it's a services firm or a technology company or whatever it may be, you have to wear many hats when you get started, right? But then you have to look strategically at which hats do you not really do well and which hats do you not like to do. Right? Because those are the hats that you need to find other people who can do better than you and who like to do those so that you can perform at your best and do the things that you like the most, because that's when you're going to get the most out of yourself as well as your team. And I always, that's some of the best advice I ever had, because it allows you to, if you can look, if you can once a quarter sit back and say, am I doing what I like to do and what I want to do here? And can others do it better? And how do you find those right people to do it? It's a maybe a less quantitative way, a less KPI driven way of figuring out, some of your next moves as you build your organization, but still just as important.
Let's talk about SaaSMAX. It's funny to say, like almost in like startup terms, it's been around for 8+ years now, a little over 8 years, which in startup land, it's like, oh my gosh, that's like forever, right?
Yeah.
But I really think it just means you've built a business that is sustainable over that time. How did SaaSMAX get started, and what made you say, I have to build a company about this specific topic of channel reselling, and here's what I'm going to do with it?
Yeah. So when I first, I had a company prior to this called Critical Digital Data, which I had sold, and it was all about data storage. And as we all know, cloud-based data storage became the thing. And it was just AWS was just moving out of beta at that point in time into a regular product offering. And we were hosted on AWS, and data storage was hot, but becoming very commoditized. And we sold that company. And at that time, I was able to be reflective on what do I want to do next. And what I learned from having that data storage company was that I had not myself understood the channel, the IT channel that existed out there, which is like a multi-billion-dollar sector. I think it's responsible for selling something like $400 billion a year in software, hardware, communications infrastructure to business, to B2B. And had I known about it sooner in the game, I would have priced my product differently. I would have gone to market differently. I would have put a different emphasis on going to market through this channel sector. And while I did fine in our exit, I could have really capitalized on a whole other go-to-market strategy that I hadn't realized existed until afterward, or until it was too late, really. So in looking at that and realizing that SaaS was still at its infancy and emerging tech is still growing like crazy, and cybersecurity was still growing, not even really a big topic then, I recognized that there was this opportunity to help SaaS vendors to go to market through the channel, and then also help the channel find the right the right technologies, the right SaaS companies, and newer innovative tools that are coming to market. So that was the initial formation of SaaSMAX, is to be that company that bridges the gap between the vendors and the partners and create new market opportunities through that. We started as a marketplace, and that marketplace evolved into distribution, which is kind of the same thing, except the reality that solution providers, channel partners, don't spend their life online looking for software products to buy and bring to their customer. That's the reality. So that's a really good lesson for startups to understand, is you might have the best product in the world and you may want to build a partner program. It doesn't mean that the channel partners are all going to find you and the gates are going to open up just because you're ready to go. They're really busy people. They're selling and servicing and maintaining their clients' accounts on some of their core, based on solutions they specialize in and core competencies. And so what I learned quickly was that we needed to help the vendors find the right partners. And to do that through a marketplace was a little bit hard to do that way. And it was the partners joining the marketplace were pretty interesting, but they weren't a one size fits all. So if you are a cybersecurity company, you might be wanting to sell through channel partners who are managed service providers. But do you want managed service providers who are honed in on enterprise or small business or medium business? It's a very different type of company, that channel partner. If you're selling into HR, if you have an HR product or a MarTech or a business intelligence product, you certainly can't sell through a channel partner that is focused on cybersecurity. And so we had our own problem to solve, which is how are we going to find and match the right partner to these vendors so that they could leverage us to grow. And that led us to say we need to build a platform, because there's nothing else that we could find that existed to be able to find the right partners and know enough about them to know that this would be the right fit. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
And so we were lucky enough to, through some of the networking I had done and being on panels and being in the channel at like the CompTIA Vendor Advisory Council, I was talking to big companies like VMware and ABG and IBM, Microsoft, companies like that, where I learned that they too have the problem of saying, we know who our top 5% best partners are, but we don't know enough about all of our partners to know which ones are even worth us spending money on and investing in, which ones are worth letting go, because quality really trumps quantity. And what happens is, without the ability to access data and know who all these partners are, you go for quantity and sort of spray and pray and hope some of them turn into good partners. So having some of those kinds of companies become part of our initial initiatives to build our partner database around and do our data mining and use them as guinea pigs to help them understand their partners better was a way that we were able to start to productize Partner Optimizer and start to do a better job of finding and profiling partners so that they could, so that all sorts of vendors, from emerging SaaS vendors up to IoT to CRM and business intelligence and hardware and anything in B2B tech, is now able to leverage our engine to search based upon an ideal partner profile that matches your ideal customer profile, so that you can now find those partners so much faster than you could ever do in the past.
Now, I'm curious, because you said SaaS was a little bit more in like its infancy at that time, eight years ago. I'm trying to remember myself at that time. Was SaaS like a prevalent acronym yet? Or was it still like was it still not used that often?
So it was still, you could find it like 20 million times by searching Google, right? Okay. It was still that out there. It's just that it wasn't as well known. It was definitely a newer term. Most people didn't know it, hadn't heard of it. In the startup sector, if you used it, it didn't mean that investors knew what it was or prospective investors understood what it was. And people were still trying to understand, what does it mean to be hosted in the cloud or delivered as a service in the cloud? So there was a lot of that happening still. And we actually had a blog, or we have a blog called Why SaaS, which we had a lot of fun with. We've had a lot of play on the words and don't be a SaaS hole.
Oh, wow. Like Why SaaS.
Yeah, wisesas.com.
That's
Yeah.
great.
So there's lots of SaaSisms, and we were able to play on that with our
But did you run
customers.
into that? Maybe not with investors, but like with potential customers? I'm just curious out of the gate with the name of SaaSMAX. I'm assuming you launched as the name SaaSMAX. Perhaps you changed over time, but
Right.
did you
No,
run
that
into any like
actually,
brand issues where people were not sure what it meant?
not so much. We actually had, and still have, good 10 to 20 vendors every day reaching out, looking for ways and paths to market through channel partners. And having that focus around SaaS initially was definitely helpful to them. It was like we were sort of a home base for them, because they knew we understood what their business model was, and that we understood how to talk about them to channel partners. Channel partners typically are more understanding of SaaS than end user customers, right? So we didn't have that technology challenge in the same way as maybe going to market with a customer. The channel partners are actually those messengers, and to say, I'm selling a solution to you. The solution happens to be in the cloud and you use it online in a browser-based methodology, but they're selling the value of the product, which is another component that's so important. And it used to be that startups said, I'm a SaaS company, and that meant they're special. But
Right.
it's when you're selling SaaS, it's not about the fact that it's SaaS, right? You're selling a tool that's providing a value, efficiency, opportunity to grow faster, communicate better, whatever it may be. And don't get stuck in putting SaaS at the start of things. SaaS is a part of how you do it, as opposed to the reason you do it.
Dead on, dead on. So let's explore our topic for today a little bit further, which is, again, using channel partnerships as a go-to-market strategy. I just want to reset the playing field for everyone and just give a textbook like fundamental definition, so we're all on the same page here. When we talk about a channel partnership, Dina, perhaps you can direct this definition a little bit better than I can, but I'm thinking it is a external company that has agreed to sell your product or service on their behalf, or excuse me, on your behalf, in exchange for some type of commission.
Mm-hmm. Or compensation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the way we typically talk about it is that a company will have a direct sales force, right? Which are your sales reps and your direct marketing funnel. And then if you decide to have a channel partner program, that means you have an indirect sales force, right? And that means they're one tier away. So you're not employing them. You don't have to spend any money on salary with them. But they are people who have feet on the street that can reach your ideal customer. They have the ability potentially to service that customer with additional consultative or onboarding or setup if your product requires it. And they'll do that all basically for commission or for a margin. And it's a really great strategy if you have the right products to do that with. And they also are really important influencers for your product. And they are already selling the other adjacent solutions that fit into the stack for your ideal customer. So sometimes it's called distribution, because you may go through a distributor who then has either direct customers, or a distributor who works with reseller partners, channel partners. And so it's either a 1-tier or a 2-tier or a 3-tier channel partner program.
So if a company is going to execute this as part of their go-to-market strategy, let's talk about like, who does it actually make sense for, and what conditions need to be satisfied, or what market conditions need to exist in order for a company to even like consider if this is the right strategy for them?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's so important, because you want to really think those questions through before you actually take action on it. And you want to put together really a business plan around building a channel partner program to figure that out. And so one of those things is, who are the buyers that you have? What are your ideal customers? And how do they typically buy other things that would be considered in the solution stack of what you sell? typically, if you say there's nothing else out there, nowadays I don't believe that, right? I mean, maybe Salesforce.com had it with a CRM when there was no other CRM, but there really was. There were software companies that existed that were on premise to manage your customer relationship management. It may not have been a cloud-based one, but when you think about who are your competitors, how are they going to market? If they're going to market through channel partners, you probably want to as well, because they've already been proving out that it's a successful path to market. If you have something that's really boutique and extremely expensive that you really need your direct salespeople to go one-on-one with, then it's probably not. But otherwise, if you're looking at going after more customers and you want to hit other places outside of your immediate geographic region, having channel partners is a really strong way to go.
So does that mean if it does make sense for a company that they should automatically execute a channel strategy, or are there potentially drawbacks that they still need to consider?
Well, there's also the timing of it, right? Let's say that you don't even have 15 or 25 customers yet, right? You don't want to execute a channel strategy without knowing how to effectively sell your own solutions and work with customers directly. Because firstly, you need to know how to sell your products really well before you expect a channel partner to figure it out. They're going to look to you for the blueprint, for the roadmap, for the collateral, for the ways that they can use to easily sell your product. So you definitely want to have experience with direct selling of your product before you ever touch a channel partner. And you also want to make sure that you really have a pricing strategy in place that leaves room for them to make money. You want them to make money. You want to incentivize them. You want there to be margin. And if you underprice your product and don't consider that, you're going to lose the ability to include them and compensate them in the process. So that's another component that's really important.
So that actually hits on something that I've long wondered, and I'm hoping you can address, is so obviously there is the compensation component as far as the what's in it for them. And then if they're set up with the right collateral, that's also helpful, right? It takes the legwork out from them. But what is it that's driving another company who already sells their own product and presumably takes up a lot of their time to just sell their own thing? What's driving them to be like, oh yeah, we'll also sell your thing, even though I could probably make more money if I sold my product and just focused on that? And I'm thinking about like the individual, like sales rep level here. Like, yeah, I can make money selling yours, but the commission I make off of that is not as much as what I make just focusing on my own product that our company sells. So what's driving the yes, let's do this on their side?
Yeah, that's a good question. So typically a channel partner is selling their services and they're selling products that they didn't build themselves. Okay. They may wrap or white label a product, right? They may consume a product themselves, which they then sell as a service, but they are not a vendor per se, right? They are there to, first and foremost, when you talk to these kinds of partners, their customers come first. They are looking for the right solutions to make their customers' businesses operate efficiently and successfully, and with security, whatever it may be. And they may be a partner who focuses on Microsoft licensing and installing and managing Office 365 and Azure and things like that. It may be cloud infrastructure. They may be system integrators. They may be CRM consultants. They might be accountants, right? These are mostly service provider businesses who are not in the business of having their own product per se, unless they're combining it to include yours and others as part of what they sell as a service-based product. So you don't have to, typically in the channel, right? You're not talking about them choosing between their own product versus yours. They're choosing typically to add your product to their line card, which allows them to earn more margin. It should also potentially earn them more service revenue, right? Let's say that you have when they sell your product, maybe they can't earn too much per product or per license, but if they're able to get an additional several $1,000s to set it up and implement and train and keep it managed as a managed service. That's another value add for them and way to capture both profit and revenue to cover their staff and to be more in depth of what they're offering to their client base. So you're allowing them to stay much more relevant and important to their customers too.
I want to talk a little bit more about this pricing and like the earnings aspect of it. If I'm a company that's seeking distribution or reseller partners, and let's say my product is let's say the average sale for my product is like $30,000. Okay. Am I going to the reseller and saying, you're actually going to sell it for 36K and take a 6K cut on it? Or am I saying you're going to sell it for 30K and we're going to give you whatever percent, we're going to give you 6K. So we make 24 and you make 6.
It could be yes and yes.
Okay.
That's part of thinking about how you want to design your program, right? Do you want your partners to sell it as a white label that they, that's part of their brand, and then they upsell that, right? So they're buying from you wholesale and they can sell it for whatever they want on top. Or is your brand name really important and important to the customer such that they're acting more like a reseller? And so when you're buying and licensing the product, you're going to give them commission, or you're going to tell them this is the MSRP. You earn everything between, in between that and the wholesale price. Or maybe it's just a referral partner, right? Maybe they're an influencer or someone that is a blogger, or maybe they don't want to do any of the selling and you need to do all the selling and the support and the service. And so you say, I'll give you commission for that. Yeah. So it's any and all of the above, right? And that really comes down to what is your ideal partner's business model, right? So once you determine what your ideal partner is, that's part of thinking about it and building a partner program that's going to be optimal for them to want to do business with you.
Got it. Okay, so then let's talk about who the ideal partner is and how someone should go about figuring that out. If I'm mapping this out and I'm looking at ideal partners, what are the things I need to be saying? Okay, I need to look for this. I need to look for this. I need to look for this. And also on their end, or not on their end, I should say. Once I figure that out, how do I go about actually like finding these people and getting in front of them?
Right. Well, so I love talking about this. So stop me if I talk too long, because This is what we do all day long, right? So to build an ideal partner profile, it's important to look at these different attributes. There's 4 buckets, we'd say, or 4 different core attributes, and then there's several below it. And so one of the top attributes we want to know is what is your ideal partner's business model, right? How do they want to do business with you, and how do they do business with their customer? It's important for you to really think through that and understand that. Then you want to know what specializations, what solutions and specializations that they have and services that they provide to their customer, right? Because if they're providing marketing services and you're a cybersecurity app, it's probably a bad fit. So what are those core offerings that you expect them to have, the core expertise that they have, that when they're going and getting a new customer, they're being hired to do? And similarly, what product types are they expert in, and do they work with, or do they resell? Because those are the things that make it important to be a good alignment. And that actually moves over to what is the tech stack that they represent. So in that area, we look at competing as well as adjacent, as well as ecosystem. So are they carrying and working with competitors of yours already? Which ones are they? Are they working too closely with them? Because if they're working too closely with them, you may not be able to pull them away. They may be very loyal. Do you want to steal market share, or do you want to go after partners who don't already have your product? That's a question to ask.
Wait, so let me pause you there. So is this to say you could potentially have a channel partner who also does sell your competitor, but they choose to sell yours as well, as maybe like hey, here's our list of offers we have to their customers. Which one do you like?
Exactly. And It may be related to an ecosystem. Like, let's say that they're specialized in cybersecurity, but half of their customers are in the Microsoft world and half are in the Google world or the SAP world. There are different products and solutions that fit into the stacks that are right for that customer based upon what their ecosystems are. And so it's something that's important to consider and think about. And if you're really focused as a cybersecurity vendor, as a cybersecurity channel partner, they're going to probably have a lot of that or specialize in one area over another area. So it's important to consider that. And it's the same thing with knowing what other products are adjacent. And so let's say that you were a cybersecurity product and you knew that endpoint protection was synergistic and API security and website security and email security, but yours is something else. Those might all be part of an existing tech stack that already has customers that are buying from a partner. And so that your product would be great to add on. So adjacent is typically a stronger way to focus on than competing, unless you're just a better mousetrap than the prior older version, right?
So the four core attributes, we have business,
right.
their business model, their core specialization, their tech stack. And what was the fourth one?
So then those are actually two buckets, right? So partner persona is that first one that's about the business model and the solutions. They specialize in everything about what their expertise is. Then there's the tech stack, right? Then there's the customer focus, which is very much what is your ideal customer profile and is theirs aligning with yours? So what vertical markets, right? What customer size is their comfort zone? What customer types? Are they government or not, or nonprofit, or are they education focused or businesses, right? It's important to understand those as well. And then there's also this extra bucket where we call really in-depth knowledge. So certifications, partner programs they belong to, compliance that they've specialized in or earned, so that you can understand how deeply expert they are in these different areas. So I know it sounds complex, but if you can put that together and understand that your best partners all have these most similar characteristics, you're going to hit that golf ball closer to the hole from the beginning than you ever would if you just guess. Spraying and praying is sort of the way of the past. You have the tools today to be able to hone in and hyper target, and you owe it to your investors and to yourself and to your sales team and your channel team to say, we want to find those best partners because they're going to have the best customer opportunities for us.
I want to continue on this and also get into how we should be reaching out to potential partners. Before that, though, I just want to take a step back here, as we're doing all this season is featuring different startup hype man companies and their pitches, specifically using the KPASA pitch formula that we use at Startup Hype Man with all of our clients. Today, we're going to be featuring Swish House for you hoops lovers out there. So listen, if you love basketball, maybe you went to a spin class, but you couldn't figure out the resistance level on the bike. So then you tried HIIT, but the kettlebell swings hurt your back. So then you go to CrossFit, and that's just way too aggressive. And who wants to flip tires anyways? Pilates, you felt out of place. And then that guy at the gym just grunts with every rep. Why put up with options that are hard to get up for, hard to find, feel like hard work, and hard to feel like you fit in just to stay in shape? Instead, why not come to Swish House and burn 1,000 calories without even knowing it? Swish House is the basketball fitness community for people who love the game and want to actually look forward to hitting the gym. You'll feel like a kid again, training like your favorite NBA player with the perfect combo of classic team shooting contests, an array of these individual drills, hoops-themed hit stations, and you'll also get a high five at the end when you hit the buzzer beater. We all know, if we've played before, we all know there's no better shape than basketball shape. So whether you played on your driveway, played in college, or you just like to shoot around, make Swish House your new home. Get started today, which is a $10 introductory class. Lace up with us at swishhouse.com. Today on the podcast, we're talking with Dina Moskowitz, the founder and CEO of SaaSMAX. And our topic is using channel partnerships as a go-to-market strategy. What I wanted to continue on, Dina, was you talked about the 4 core ideal partner attributes, which are around business model, core specialization, tech stack, and their ideal customer profile themselves and having alignment there. Let's say you figured all this stuff out. How do you actually get in front of these people?
Yeah, well, so I just also want to bring up that, like, one of the things we developed in our AI-driven platform is the ability to come up with all those terms really fast, right? So that could be an onerous process. You need to have your stakeholders involved, but we have the ability to profile partners who are your most successful ones, or ones you already have your eye on, and hone in on what makes them, what attributes they already have, so that you can way more quickly determine what that ideal profile is, and then start to do the recruiting and finding them.
So that would so basically those 4 core attributes are what you've built the SaaSMAX's software around, to be able to easily pick out who those ideal partners would be.
Exactly, because in the past, it's been an onerous process, very laborious. You spend expensive resources and your own, yeah. And so our goal was to say, we know those partners are out there for you. We want you to talk to the right ones. We, as channel executives in our past lives, had those same problems ourselves, and it could take months to just find those right ones, and then it takes time to activate them, and you're spending all sorts of time and energy. So by knowing them in the first minutes to hours to weeks, then you can start on the next phase, which is recruiting them, and then onboarding them and training them and engaging and activating them and keeping them involved. And that's where storytelling is so important too, because the next thing, once you know who those right partners are and you know enough about them, you want to build a story that is going to engage them. You want to talk to them in a very clear-cut way of what's in it for them. Why should they care about your product? Why is it different from everything else? What's the competitive advantage that's going to allow them to service their client first and foremost, right? They care typically less about how much money they're going to make and more about the value they're going to provide to their end customer. And so if you have that story crafted really well, which is something that you do so well, Rajiv, it's really important in terms of planning everything out before you then go to recruit. If you have that in place and you know you're talking to the right partners, then it's really just about dialing and emailing and webinars and showing up and making sure you do whatever you can to get their attention, because you already know they're the right partners for you, and you should be able to close them and get them on their way.
One thing I don't want to overlook here is the importance of, as the company seeking channel resellers, you have to have like your own shit together, and you have to know how is your own product sold. You can't just outsource that as guesswork to other people, right? It sounds like it's not just that you give them a product. You have to also let them know, and here's how you describe value of this thing. Here's how we sell it. Here's how you can sell it, right? It can't just be make some money by taking our product and trying to totally farm out the legwork in that sense.
Right. There's 2 sides, right? One is that you might have a product that can only go to market through the channel, which really a lot of cybersecurity companies have that situation where they need the experts, and those experts need to be able to provide the service to their end client, right? And so those companies, if you're one of those, you typically know who you are. And sometimes those solution providers or channel partners are even your customer. And other times it's about, like, for example, Zoom, right? Zoom is easy to take to market and had a lot of small businesses get there. But and with the boom in the pandemic, they were able to build out a channel partner program and enable all these other channel partners who already knew customers for them to now be able to offer it. And so they developed, over the last year, they really penetrated the channel and distribution and have now made it easy for channel partners to participate in that upsell.
One thing you mentioned in that distribution strategy or getting in front of partner strategy, you mentioned webinars as one of the potential avenues. Mm-hmm. Is that to say, host a webinar literally on the topic of how to become a channel partner of ours, or is it host a webinar on some expertise on the topic, and then people naturally from that might say, can we resell what you have?
Well, it's like marketing 101, right? You have to start to touch point them, and you need to have multiple programs, multiple events and collateral to to introduce them to both. You may want to have a webinar that introduces the channel chief, right? Who's talking about the partner program itself, but also talking about the product, but a separate demo when it comes to the product, because first they want to know, what is the partner program? How channel friendly are you? Are you going to help us to get our first sales? Are you going to compensate us? What are your terms? And so that's one conversation, the business conversation, and separately is the product demo conversation. Yeah. And yeah. So there's lots of, when you're first building your partner program and you don't have enough partners in the first place, you may want to address it differently than if you have a lot of partners already, right? So when you definitely want to have some training videos and onboarding videos so that as they do join your partner program, they can work at their pace. And it's very much like when you're going after direct sales, you want to treat them like, you're selling to them, and you may have the best product in the world, but you have to explain to them why and it is a relationship based situation. They become your sales rep, right? So you want them to feel loyal to you. You want them to like you and trust you first and foremost, because if they don't, it's not as important to them. You're one of several products for them.
Now, if you've got a partner network set up and they're starting to sell your product, is it like, so with an internal sales team, you've got all of your reps on quota.
Right.
Are you supposed to put partners on quota as well? Or is it just like anything that comes from them is gravy and you don't have like a real expectation of how much they're supposed to be bringing in per quarter, per half year, per year?
So that's a fantastic question. Novice channel executives don't typically structure things as well as they could and should. But yes, in our sector, when you come to very professional channel partner programs, there are typically like a silver, gold, and platinum tier. And when you earn certain levels of transaction and activity, you will get better benefits. You will get higher compensation. You will get trips around the world. There are lots of ways to incentivize and get them to earn up to different levels. And you've probably heard of it mostly like from the Microsoft world. Being a Microsoft Gold partner is a really big status to get to. And those Microsoft Gold partners are a whole different game than just a Microsoft business partner or authorized partner per se.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Very interesting. I've got a couple of more quick questions here before we begin our wrap up. So let's say you've got a distribution network set up. Let's use that 30K example again, where what you sell to your direct customers is $30,000. You tell them, sell it for 30 and take 6K off the top. So we'll keep 24, you keep 6. Again, just hypothetical numbers here.
Mm-hmm.
What if I miscalculated? And after several months, I'm like, oh crap, actually, that doesn't work out so well in our favor. Does that ever happen? And how would one go about addressing that? Or are you just stuck with like, well, it's what you signed, so.
Well, you don't want to, that also depends on the relationship you have with that partner, right? You don't want to upset them because they could potentially take your business somewhere else, right? It's their customer. And it's really important to acknowledge that. And that if you don't, some vendors come through and only want to give you an upfront fee versus an evergreen fee for the life of the license, right? Well, it's really hard, as we all know, to it's a lot easier to upsell and resell an existing customer than it is to have to go find new customers. And so if you want to disincentivize a partner to continue their clients with you, you're probably going to see that situation occur. If you've priced everything incorrectly, you're probably going to have to bite the bullet on the existing transactions and customers already in place. But that doesn't mean you can't change your pricing and plans going forward and have new MSRPs and new compensation tables. And you probably do want to talk to that partner and explain the situation. But if they're your partner in this and they're also earning potentially service revenue around your product, you should be fine. And if they love your product, again, you should be fine because you've developed a trusted relationship with them. And that's why not just treating them like an affiliate link is really important, because they're more than an affiliate tracking link, right? These are people with businesses, with customers that really they could move the needle for you. So, yeah.
That kind of segues then into my last question here before we wrap up is, how do you ensure that the relationship is like, I think it's one thing to set up the relationship. It's another art and skill entirely to maintain the relationship. So what advice do you have to maintain a healthy channel relationship?
Well, that you have a designated person on your team responsible for nurturing those relationships and making sure that your partners are happy and that you're addressing their needs on demand as they have them, and that you're treating them just like you would treat a member of your own sales team, right? If they are not producing, it's okay to let them go, right? Or find out why they're not. It doesn't. Sometimes having too many partners and a lot of them not working out is a waste of time. Also, another good tip is when you're hiring a channel sales executive, because when you build a channel, for those who don't know it, you have probably someone who's called like the channel chief, but then you have a channel sales team and you have a channel marketing team. And then you even potentially have a PRM, a partner relationship management platform instead of a CRM, right? And there are tools that help you manage your partner channel as it grows. And it can be a really exciting and profitable part of your business, but it's not going to happen in a month or 2 months or even 3 months. You probably need to invest at least 12 to 18 months to start to see the rewards of doing that. And so you need to have the support of your C-suite and make sure your investors understand the value of building a channel when you're doing it. But it is a great long tail to have. The channel is growing. There are, I think, according to Jay McBain of Forrester, who's like one of the leading worldwide channel analysts that exist out there, the channel has approximately 1.5 million companies that exist as channel partners in some way, shape, or form today. And it's probably going to nearly double that over the next 5 to 10 years. And so it's becoming a normal, accepted way of doing business into SaaS. And it's a really important strategy. If you're not doing it, there's no doubt that someone in your category of your competition will. So you want to embrace those partners before this competition does.
Let's hit our wrap up now. First off, where can our listeners find you, learn more about you, and learn more about SaaSMAX?
Yeah, so SaaSMAX.com is spelled like S like Sam, S like Sam, MAX. And our platform is called Partner Optimizer, which you can learn about on SaaSMAX.com. And to reach out to me directly, my name is spelled D-I-N-A, Dina. It's a D like David, I-N like Nancy, A like Apple. And you can reach me at the email dina@SaaSMAX.com. I'd be happy to respond. Or through LinkedIn is always a great way to reach me. And so, yeah, happy to answer those questions. We have, I live and breathe channel and channel data, and would love helping emerging companies with great existing products that are ready for market and ready for channel to do what, to take it to the market.
And we'll add Dina's contact info into the show notes where this episode is hosted on startuphypeman.com. Dina, who is one person that you want to shout out?
Oh, one person. Well, the person of the week really is someone on our team named Sophie Mazer. She's a young person, just a couple of years out of college, but she is brilliant when it comes to using project management software. And even though we thought we had our systems in a great place already, her coming onto the company has changed the ability to manage our data in a much more efficient way, manage our customer data, if that makes sense. So She came on for customer success and client services, and she whipped the senior team into place in a way that we'd never thought of. And that's, that comes back to the beginning of when we were talking and you said, what are some of the lessons? It's like, when someone comes in with a clean slate and has new tools to work with, there's so much you can learn from them. And it's going to be because of her initiatives that probably we're going to recognize a few extra points in efficiency in our workforce. So shout out to Sophie.
That's great. Shout out to Sophie. I'm sure she will appreciate hearing herself shouted out in this episode.
Yep.
We'll do our top 1 or 2 lessons or takeaways for the listeners based on the discussion today. I'll go first and I'll toss it to you. I think honestly, like my biggest takeaway, there was a lot of really good tactical stuff. The one thing I really want to highlight here is the importance of considering if this should be a strategy for a company or not. I think a lot of companies don't, it's really not even in their consideration set. And I do think more companies should be looking at, is this how we should go to market? Or if we're already in market, is this a supplementary way we can be expanding our market? Dina, top 1 or 2 lessons or takeaways for the listeners.
Yeah, I think that it's important to focus on a quality partner program over quantity. You can do that nowadays by really understanding who your ideal partners are. And so even if you get 10 great partners to start, you will really reap the rewards of that, right? So focusing on quality over quantity. Use data to make informed decisions. We have more and more access to data. Historically, we didn't. And so that's another big lesson. And the other thing is entrepreneurship is a lifestyle, right? We're all here as sort of, we're talking.
Oh, wait, no, I gotta ask you that question first.
Gotcha.
You got ahead of me there. Okay, let's get there now.
Okay.
So my final question for you.
Sorry.
My final question is, fill in the blank. Entrepreneurship is blank.
Yeah, I was excited to say that. It's a lifestyle, right? You either are one or you're not, right? And an entrepreneur is someone that's willing to wear every hat and uncover every stone to fulfill their vision on things, and sometimes put on blinders so that other things don't get in the way or tell you can't do it. So it truly is a lifestyle. And just when you think things may be going the wrong way, don't give up, because the sun rises the next morning and it's a new day and good things happen.
Entrepreneurship is a lifestyle. She is Dina Moskowitz, founder and CEO of SaaSMAX. Dina, thank you so much for joining today on Startup Hype Man, the podcast.
Thanks, Rajiv. Great to be here, and thanks for learning about the channel with me.
Thank you.
That wraps up today's conversation. Did you like what you heard? Startup Hype Man, the podcast, is available on every major platform, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, and more. So be sure to subscribe on your platform of choice and leave a rating and review. Do you want to be an upcoming guest on the show? Email media@startuphypeman.com with your idea, and my team will review. Our theme song is Change the Game by Jay-Z, all rights owned by Rockefeller and Def Jam Records. And hey, if you want to work together on making your startup story the only one that matters, email me at rajiv@startuphypeman.com. That's RAJIV@startuphypeman.com. Well, that'll do it for today. Thank you for listening. Thank you to today's guests for joining. You have been checking out Startup Hype Man, the podcast. I'll catch you next week. But in the meantime, word up, raise up.